a moving screen. You decide to jump, get your hand around my head and hit me with an RKO out of nowhere. You are more in the wrong than the moving screen. So let's take a look here. These people are idiots, by the way. So, Kayla McBride sets a screen on Aja, and she sets a moving screen on Aja. This should be a defensive foul, but unfortunately, in the WNBA, where people set screens like this, yes, when there's contact, you're going to do that. She literally does this. This is what Kayla McBride does. Makes that much.
A controversial play during a recent WNBA game has sparked debate about officiating standards and player conduct. The incident involved Aja Wilson forcefully pushing former teammate Kayla McBride, which officials ruled as a common foul despite the apparent severity of the contact. The sequence began when McBride set what appeared to be a moving screen on Wilson. While the screen contained some movement that could have warranted an offensive foul call, the subsequent retaliation proved far more problematic. Wilson's response involved shoving McBride toward another player's landing area, creating a potentially dangerous situation.
Makes that much of a move. Kayla McBride sets a screen, an illegal screen, which is, again, it's basketball. Referees do their job, call that foul. And by the way, this is the most light moving screen ever. And Aja Wilson decides to essentially shove a player into the knee of another player. Like, you look at her feet as soon as she puts up this shot. She immediately takes her feet away. Like, lads, if Aja Wilson lands where she shoved Kayla McBride into, it's a flagrant foul.
Basketball analysis reveals that Wilson's push directed McBride into the space where Napheesa Collier was completing her shooting motion. Had Collier jumped forward during her shot rather than maintaining a vertical landing, the collision could have resulted in a serious ankle injury. This type of play typically warrants flagrant foul consideration due to the unnecessary and dangerous nature of the contact. The officiating crew's decision to classify this as a common foul has drawn significant criticism from observers who argue that similar contact involving other players would have resulted in harsher penalties. The inconsistency in foul calls throughout the league has become a recurring concern among fans and analysts.
But you can shove one of their teammates into a landing zone foul. Like, if Fee jumped forward, if Fee was not a straight up and down shooter, if she jumped forward, her ankles are taken out by this play. This is a dirty play. This is an absolutely dirty play. People are like, oh, Aja standing on business. These people don't get basketball. They don't get basketball. This is a dirty play. You can hate Aja. You have to come to contact. This is an illegal screen. Breed was holding. Who the hell? McBride is holding.
Wilson's frustration appears to stem from her declining status in MVP discussions as other players have elevated their performance levels. Collier, in particular, has emerged as arguably the most complete player in the league, excelling in both scoring and defensive metrics while leading her team to the best record. Statistical analysis supports the argument that Collier currently represents the premier talent in women's basketball. Her team's unexpected success, combined with her individual excellence on both ends of the court, has positioned her as the frontrunner for league honors that Wilson previously dominated. The shift in competitive dynamics reflects the natural evolution of professional sports, where established stars eventually face challenges from emerging talents.
McBride is holding her, but you don't shove someone into somebody. This is a dirty play. And this is a dirty play. If Aaliyah Boston did that, she's going to be called every racial slur by these people imaginable, and say that Caitlin Clark taught her that. Everyone be called for a multi-game suspension, dirtiest player in the league, instant ejection, 2-game suspension. This is a flagrant 1.5, and it's a common foul. No, it's a flagrant one. It's a flagrant one. Because you add 2 flagrant 0.5s. Because it wasn't quite.
Wilson's previous unanimous MVP selection is now being questioned in hindsight, with some arguing that other candidates deserved stronger consideration. Current season performance metrics indicate that several players have surpassed Wilson in various categories. Collier leads multiple efficiency measurements, while players like Alyssa Thomas and Sabrina Ionescu have also demonstrated superior all-around contributions to their respective teams. The All-WNBA first team selections have become increasingly competitive, with traditional choices facing scrutiny based on current form rather than reputation. Wilson's inclusion among the top 5 players is no longer automatic, reflecting the league's improved depth and talent distribution.
Because it wasn't quite the landing zone foul. The shove may not have been, or the shove into the legs. It's a flagrant one. It's a flagrant one. Why is Aja Wilson so angry? Because she's getting her chain snatched in real time. In real time, Napheesa Collier is, I'm not joking when I say this, Fee is the best scorer in the WNBA, best defender in the WNBA. Her team's the best team in the WNBA. And by the way, if you want to argue AJ Wilson was robbed in 2020,
Kelsey Plum's emergence as a playoff contender has added another dimension to the MVP conversation. Her ability to elevate her team's performance while maintaining high individual standards demonstrates the breadth of elite talent currently available in the league. The comparison to NBA precedents illustrates how individual dominance periods naturally fluctuate among elite athletes. Previous champions like Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, and Giannis Antetokounmpo have all experienced cycles of peak performance and relative decline as competitors emerged. Nikola Jokic's current NBA dominance provides a parallel for understanding how exceptional players can maintain their status despite challenges from rising stars.
AJ Wilson was robbed in 2023. So be it. So be it. Now, you can make that argument that AJ was robbed in 2023. I'm not making that argument here. I'm not making that argument that she wasn't robbed years ago for an MVP. But every single metric, Nafisa Collier, unless other than counting stats, and counting stats, Fee is still better than AJ Wilson. Like AJ Wilson, this is where we're talking about. It was like everyone.
The recent playoff series against Oklahoma City demonstrated his continued excellence even as younger talents like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander assert themselves. Wilson's physical style of play has developed into what observers term signature moves that often result in favorable officiating decisions. The Coldplay hug technique involves wrapping opponents during contested situations to force jump ball scenarios rather than allowing natural basketball plays to develop. This approach has drawn comparisons to other players' tactical fouls, though the frequency and effectiveness of Wilson's methods suggest a pattern that officials have been reluctant to address consistently. The technique appeared again in interactions with other players, indicating a deliberate strategy rather than isolated incidents.
This is where we're talking about. It was like everyone talking about, oh, this is what the All-WNBA first team should be. Brianna Stewart should not be on the All-WNBA first team. AJ Wilson should be like the fifth player. The All-WNBA first team should be Nafisa Collier, Sabrina Ionescu, Alyssa Thomas. They should be, and by the way, Sabrina Ionescu, maybe not. If Jonquel Jones healthy for the rest of the year, Jonquel Jones, Alyssa Thomas, Nafisa Collier. They have been the three best players in the entire WNBA this year.
The dangerous nature of pushing players into traffic areas represents a significant safety concern that transcends competitive intensity. Professional athletes depend on spatial awareness and predictable contact patterns to avoid serious injuries during high-speed gameplay. Had similar contact occurred involving other prominent players, particularly those from different teams or backgrounds, the response from officials, media, and fans would likely have differed substantially. This disparity in treatment undermines the credibility of officiating standards and league discipline policies. The incident recalls previous controversies involving hard fouls that generated extensive discussion and analysis.
Our WNBA this year. They have been by far the three best players. AT not even voted an all-star starter though, so I don't know what we're talking about there. If the Sparks make the playoffs, I think Kelsey Plum should be there. And Skylar Diggins. Like, that is a better all, like, every one of those have been at least, I think Kelsey Plum's been better than AJ Wilson this year. That's just my opinion. I think Kelsey Plum's been better than her. I don't think Kelsey Plum's better than AJ Wilson, but I think this year she's been better.
However, the current situation received comparatively minimal attention despite representing potentially more dangerous contact than those earlier examples. Wilson's apparent frustration with her changing status within the league hierarchy has manifested in increasingly physical play that borders on unsportsmanlike conduct. The competitive fire that previously drove her excellence now appears to be channeled into questionable on-court behavior. The league's failure to address these incidents consistently creates precedents that could encourage similar behavior from other players. Professional sports require clear standards and enforcement to maintain both competitive integrity and player safety.
But there are a few things the Indiana Fever really need to do, and if they do these, they're not going to lose. They are not going to lose if they do these. And the first thing is, honestly, is to put in a lot of pressure and try not let Camila Cardoso get a quick start to the game. So I didn't even realize this till I was watching like a Hunter Cruz video. Basically, Camila Cardoso.
Future officiating decisions will be scrutinized for consistency in applying flagrant foul criteria, particularly when involving star players whose actions might otherwise receive preferential treatment. The credibility of the league depends on uniform application of rules regardless of player status. The broader implications extend beyond individual incidents to encompass the league's reputation for fair play and sportsmanship. Professional women's basketball has worked to establish credibility and respect, making controversial non-calls particularly damaging to those efforts. Player safety protocols require consistent enforcement to prevent escalation of physical play that could result in serious injuries.
I didn't realize this till I was watching like a Hunter Cruz video. Basically, Camila Cardoso, if she has a good first quarter, she tends to have a really good game. If she starts off well, and any games where she doesn't score in the first quarter, she's terrible. So, like, basically, her engagement. We all know when it comes to Cardoso that it literally is a case of whether she's mentally present or not. Whether she's engaged, whether she wants to be there. With Cardoso, it's not about her ability.
The competitive nature of professional sports naturally creates intense situations, but organized leagues must maintain boundaries to protect participant welfare. The incident demonstrates how individual frustrations can manifest in ways that compromise both safety and sportsmanship. Professional athletes face pressure to maintain performance levels, but that pressure cannot justify dangerous or unsportsmanlike conduct toward opponents. Wilson's legacy as a dominant player remains secure, but her current approach to competition raises questions about how established stars should handle the emergence of new talent. The most respected champions typically demonstrate grace in both victory and challenge.
Ability. We all know Cardoso has all the ability in the world. Cardoso has the ability to be a top tier player in the league. But at the end of the day, Michael Beasley had all the ability to be a top player in the NBA, and it didn't work out. But it does seem like when it comes to Cardoso, that if she is not engaged early, she's not engaged at all. And like, it's a thing, even when she was at her best, when she was playing with Dawn Staley was still saying that there were issues when it came.
The situation ultimately reflects broader questions about officiating consistency, star treatment, and safety standards that affect the league's overall credibility and competitive balance. The upcoming matchup between Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky represents a crucial contest for the Fever organization. Angel Reese leads qualified sophomore players in scoring averages, though this statistic requires contextual clarification regarding playing time requirements. Based on Chicago's pregame promotional materials featuring Reese, her participation appears likely despite recent technical foul concerns. Indiana enters this contest as favorites regardless of injury situations affecting either roster.
He was still saying that there were issues when it came to Cardoso with her aggression. And her aggression, her engagement is something like, again, first of all, the fact that we're having these conversations means we are completely taking Cardoso out of the top young player conversations. We're not doing that, like, because regardless of ability level, like, I'm not sitting here questioning whether.
Without Reese available, the game becomes significantly more manageable for Indiana, though her presence still allows reasonable victory expectations. Several strategic approaches could ensure Fever's success if properly executed. The primary tactical focus should involve preventing Camila Cardoso from establishing early offensive rhythm. Statistical analysis reveals Cardoso's performance correlation with first-quarter productivity. The strong opening periods typically translate to dominant overall games, while scoreless first quarters often result in minimal impact throughout. This pattern reflects engagement and mental presence issues rather than pure ability limitations.
Whether or not, like, saying that a player has is going to be great when they don't really when trying is one of their problems. But that's one of the things is they really got to make sure that Cardoso does not dominate them. Because if Cardoso is there giving this team the business, it can be tough because they don't really have a matchup for Cardoso. They don't. The Fever don't. The Fever have a matchup for E-Will The Fever have matchup.
Cardoso possesses elite physical tools and could develop into a Premier League player, similar to how talented prospects like Michael Beasley showed tremendous potential without achieving consistent excellence. Don Staley's previous coaching comments about Cardoso highlighted ongoing aggression and engagement concerns even during peak performance periods. These mental consistency issues remove Cardoso from top young player discussions despite her obvious talent. Sustainable excellence requires reliable effort levels, making her unpredictable engagement patterns particularly problematic for team-building purposes. Indiana lacks ideal matchup options for a fully engaged Cardoso, unlike their multiple defensive answers for Elizabeth Williams and Angel Reese.
They don't. The Fever don't. The Fever have a matchup for E-Will. The Fever have matchups for Angel. The Fever have multiple players that can throw an Angel. The Fever have multiple players that can throw an E-Will. They don't really have that Cardoso matchup. So, if Cardoso is engaged and she's playing at her best, which is one of every 5 or 6 games, which she's had about 5 or 6 bad games in a row, so it might be this game. Like, that is kind of where it comes down to. It's just on the odd game. It's just like when you're playing Dallas. Like, Enrique can stink. Enrique can stink for an entire season, but like, you're still scared.
However, Cardoso's inconsistency means she might experience another subpar performance after several consecutive poor outings, following her typical cyclical patterns. Against Chicago's perimeter personnel, three-quarter court pressure represents the optimal defensive strategy. Rachel Bannum provides minimal point guard facilitation, leaving Reese responsible for most offensive creation. Pressuring Reese while strategically choosing help defenders creates favorable matchup advantages. Defensive rotation should allow Elizabeth Williams open shooting opportunities, while denying cleaner looks for Camila Cardoso, Beck Allen, and preventing Kiana Nurse from finding offensive rhythm.
But like, you're still scared of that potential one Enrique game. But that's one of the things with Cardoso. When it comes to Angel Reese, you pressure three-quarter court. This team, Rachel Bannum does not set up anything at point guard. It's Angel Reese sets up a lot. And you pressure Angel Reese and you just choose who to help off. You let Elizabeth Williams shoot the ball. You don't let Kia Nurse get hot. You don't let Rachel Bannum or you don't let Beck Allen shoot the ball. You deny those players.
When Haley Van Lith or Maddie Westbeld enter games, helping off these players creates numerical advantages without significant offensive consequences. Double-teaming strategies against Reese prove counterproductive. Over-pressuring her in perimeter situations while avoiding paint doubles forces individual shot creation rather than easy assists to teammates. This approach limits Chicago's most effective offensive sequences.
You don't let Rachel Bannum or you don't let Beck Allen shoot the ball. You deny those players. If Haley Van Lit's on the floor, you help off Haley Van Lit. If Maddie Westbell's on the floor, you help off Maddie Westbell's. If they're running double bigs, you help off the second big. You allow Angel Reese to, you overpressure Angel Reese. You don't double team her when she gets into the paint. You put pressure on her on the perimeter and you pinch. If you do that to Angel Reese, it's GG's. Like, she's going to struggle. On the
transition opportunities should favor Indiana significantly. Chicago demonstrates poor defensive transition habits, with both Cardoso and Reese showing reluctance to sprint back defensively. While not reaching Dallas Wings' levels of transition vulnerability, these defensive lapses create scoring chances for alert opponents. Kelsey Mitchell's speed advantage becomes crucial in these situations,